Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's the president of American Alliance for Jews and Christians. Keith Abloh is a psychiatrist, Fox News contributor, I should both say. They're not under oath, but they're both friends of mine. I'm just saying. They can deny it all they want, but that's the truth. And I'm glad you guys are here. Okay. Keith, you and I are working. You've been working with me on this project for a while. And let's start with gratitude.
Sure.
What is gratitude? Why is it important?
It's tremendously important because, in fact, gratitude allows you to bear witness to your life. Now, people don't tend to pause and think of their lives as they're written day by day, page by page. We tend to almost be visually watching it as a film. But in fact, if you slow down and you think, what in my life am I really grateful for? And you may have to invoke loss to do this, by the way. It's a little bit like breathing, gratitude. You don't notice the things in your life that you're really grateful for until there's not enough oxygen in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
I had a test. A doctor stuck something down my windpipe the other day, and he was like, it's only going to be 8 seconds. I just need 8 seconds. And he puts it down my windpipe. That's the longest 8 seconds of my life. And you
Yes.
can't breathe. Whoa! You appreciate it when you start to again.
Correct. And what you're asking people to do, to appreciate in advance.
Yeah, I know.
It's a journey.
Can it be done?
It can be done because, in fact, people can bear witness to their own lives. They have to be free to do that. They have to be individuals. They have to know who they are. And then you can be thankful because you can say, boy, thanks for another day on my journey, mine, nobody else's. Even if it's a tough day, it's your day tomorrow to fight again.
Rabbi, I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I'm not going to Wilmington. I'm going to get more. I think this is the secret of giving. You get more out of giving than you give.
Yes, of course.
I'm going to Wilmington because just the stories that I told tonight restore me, give me hope, know that good people really do exist, and this little town really does exist. It's not going to give up.
Makes you fall in love with America all over again.
But I want to make sure that it doesn't, that I don't appear and nobody else appears as we're giving this town charity, because we're not. I see it honestly as the end of It's a Wonderful Life, where everybody came and George was like, wow, I didn't think it mattered.
Yes.
We have to take a break, and when we come back, would you talk a little bit about the problem with charity, what it can turn into?
Yes, of course.
We'll do that next. All right. Back with Keith Abloh. He's a psychiatrist and Fox News contributor. I feel like I should be laying down on a couch. And Rabbi Daniel Lapin of the American Alliance for Jews and Christians. Rabbi, I want to come to you because we're talking about gratitude and using the trilogy of holidays here.
Sure.
Humbling ourselves and becoming grateful, because if you separate thanks from giving, don't make it a compound word, giving.
Yes.
But giving has a dark side, possibly, to it. Explain.
Well, very easily, in the sense that the Torah depicts a blueprint for how the world really works. The way God built us is that it is very easy for us to corrode our souls. And receiving something for nothing is one of the surest ways of doing that. And so in a divine hierarchy of giving, the highest way of giving is to enable somebody to earn his own living. Because in so doing, you give him something much more valuable than merely an income. You give him his dignity.
Yeah.
Dignity and self-respect, precisely. And it's interesting that, again, in ancient Jewish wisdom, it is more important to give something to somebody who needs clothing than to someone who needs food. Because food is just merely physical survival. Clothing is spiritual dignity.
There's a problem that we see, and this is why Oprah didn't build her school in America. She built it over in Africa. And when I read an interview with her, I think it was Oprah, it may have been Gail, that said, there is a level of expectation in America. So there's not real gratitude. It turns, if you give, for instance, look at many, not all. I mean, I've worked at soup kitchens before. You can see the people who are have gratitude, and you can see it in their eyes.
Yes.
And then you can see the others that are just milking the system. There is something about being able to say, to say thank you, to give back. Explain, for instance, kids in Beverly Hills versus kids that are working on the farm in Oklahoma.
Yes, well, I sometimes think of what a sociologist would say arriving on this planet for the first time. Well, one thing he'd say for sure is that one of the worst government words ever introduced is the word entitlement. That was a really bad word. Another thing he'd notice is those two families you describe. And we'd say to him, well, look, you know, you've got this family in Beverly Hills where the children have one primary responsibility in life, and that's to accept the keys to a BMW on their 16th birthday. And then you've got another family in, shall we say, a small town in Ohio, perhaps,
Yeah.
where the children are expected to help, and they do chores around the house, and they ask mother and father if there's anything you need us for before we go out and play. You say to your sociologist, which family is going to have a better relationship with their children, right? Surely the one that asks nothing of their children and just gives them things. It's not like that. In the real world, receiving with no opportunity to reciprocate corrodes the soul. And so it's those children that have an opportunity to do chores, an opportunity to respect mother and father. They are taught to honor their father and mother. Those children love their parents more than the children who give nothing back.
When we go back, I'd like to actually bring Alan in on this one. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit because that's in many ways, there are people that need to be helped, and there are people that need to be helped by our government that you know, individuals can't, et cetera, et cetera. But how do we know? Where is that line? Where do you have any idea? Maybe you have some idea of is there a point? Is there something that happens to people? We'll get to that next. We're talking a little bit about gratitude. Back with us is Rabbi Daniel Lappin, Dr. Keith Abloh, and Alan Willoughby, who's running Sugar Tree Ministries in a little town called Wilmington, Ohio, and I'm going to be there in December, and I ask you to come with me. Just watch the show, and you'll get more details. Magic is going to happen again. We were talking before we broke about there is a turning point of giving somebody food, and they are so grateful. And then it becomes an entitlement. And then it's like, what? You don't we had this last night. Have you seen that happen to people? Have you seen a transition? And do you have any thoughts on what happens to people?
We experience both sides of that story.
Right.
Many more than the negative side.
Sure.
We have people come back after they get on their feet and say, thank you so much for helping us, or they come in and pitch in with us. And that truly is a never-ending story in our situation. It keeps coming
But
back.
have you ever seen anybody turn where they were really grateful and then all of a sudden they turn?
Oh, yeah.
What happens to a man? Do you know?
I'm not really sure. Almost greed sometimes comes out of giving if you don't do it with the right heart. And it's a strange thing because we have experienced that before.
Now, Rabbi, you said that it is the inability to pay back. It makes you resentful that you can't give back.
Very much so, yes,
Right.
because it turns you into a charity recipient, and heaven forbid, the worst thing for a man or a woman is to be forced into a position where they view themselves no longer as capable of being givers and makers, but they just become takers.
Right.
Yeah, I think it gets back to love. Really, we're talking about the drama of conditional love versus unconditional love. Right? So if you can give someone something because you know that that person has what he or she will need to remake his or her life, that person will receive it differently because they know that you're not trying to induce dependency. You're not saying, you know what, you're broken and beyond repair. You're merely giving in the expectation that, yes, they will give back. That expectation
It really is
allows them to do that.
It is pay it forward. You are required, you know, like those. I'm so glad to hear that people who you know were helped come back and help, and they pitch in, and they're the ones pulling others out of the gutter, you know, because that is what it's all about. I mean,
and I don't think it ever ends. There are some people, there are broken souls out there who do turn a hand into a handout because maybe they've had that experience of conditional love in their lives before. You have to be willing, as Alan is, to say, listen, this isn't good for you anymore.
Right.
Because I love you. That's why you can't have more.
Rabbi, I'm sure you have this, you know, as you counsel people.
No, that's exactly right. And to turn it into an entitlement means you've removed the obligation of appreciation and gratitude, because you're simply giving me what I'm entitled to. When you rob people of the opportunity to say thanks, you really are depriving people of the avenue to hope and optimism in the future.
I had a bishop, this is really hard. I had a bishop call me one time. Somebody in my church had approached me and said, can you help? And I could. And the bishop called me at night and he said, you are going to be approached, I think, by this individual. And I said, oh, they already called. And he said, please, I'm begging you, don't. And I said, but I can. And he said, don't. He is not doing the things that he can do to take the next step. And until he takes that next step, you will crush his spirit. It's amazing. Okay, back in just a second. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for watching tonight. There's good stuff right around the corner. Gratitude is the key. From New York, good night, America.